This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's episode of Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, as always, my guy, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Lots to recap. Tigers, potentially historic baseball collapse. Michigan State. Got to see a little bit more of them. We can assess now where Michigan's headed. And, of course, as always, Michigan's headed one way and the Spartans potentially headed another. So we'll talk all about it. And then a great Monday Night Football contest. The Doc is now officially not a jinx. I was in the house. I was in the house for Kansas City when they opened the season in primetime. They won. I was in the house for Dallas. They destroyed. Am I the good luck charm? What? Baltimore was great in and out. We'll talk about that whole experience, the Detroit Lions getting themselves back on the map, and it goes to show you that talent reigns supreme, even over coaches, and I truly believe that. Because what's going on, Michigan got the dub against Nebraska. Good for them. I think they started to prove, and really I thought my biggest takeaway was you're starting to see an identity. Even without Sharon Moore, you're starting to see a football team that is what Michigan brings to the table. They run the football well. They're starting to let Bryce Underwood do his thing. And when you have a running back that on any given play can take the ball to the house or get you an explosive, that just does so much for you. And you could start to see where Michigan identifies the player that they want, whether it be on the offensive line or defensive line or an offensive skill player. And even though everybody wants skill players and the fast, five-star player, Michigan fits into what I like in football, which is here's what we do. Get guys that do it very well. And when you have a running back that on any given play can be difficult to bring down, it just bodes really well for Michigan. I was very impressed with their win over Nebraska.
Yeah, look, I thought it was a huge win. And like you said, I think you're starting to see an identity with this Michigan team. On offense, they're going to bloody you up front with that offensive line, and they're going to run the ball right down your throat. I think having a quarterback that's a dual threat like Underwood is, I think it's a game changer. You have to be accountable for him both through the air and then with his legs, and them opening up the run game for him, having those RPOs, and him just being able to scramble and take off and make guys miss. It's a total game changer, and it adds another element to this offense. Look, I think he's going to continue to get better. I thought he played a good game. I didn't think he played great. I didn't think Michigan necessarily played great. They played good enough to go on the road and get a win against a Nebraska team that I think is good. I think Nebraska is going to make a bowl this year. I think Nebraska is going to give some teams fits. I don't think that team is necessarily elite by any means, but I think this was a good test for this young Michigan team. As we proceed to get through this season, I think this team's only going to get better. And I think defensively, Michigan has an identity as well. They like to beat you up front with that D-line. They've got a guy who can get to the quarterback, and he does it with power, he does it with speed, and he wrecks shop. And you have cornerbacks that can cover. I'm not going to say they're elite by any means, but they can do their job. And you've got enough guys up front who make the pocket really, really messy and cloudy for opposing quarterbacks. And so they just want to beat you up, and they want to beat you up along the offensive and defensive lines. And we both like that style of football. I think this bodes well for Michigan, specifically with their offense. That the defense, I don't think has really been a question the last couple of years. The defense has kind of been the linchpin to how this team can get wins, and how when the offense isn't working, the defense can help you win ball games. I think what you're seeing now is you're seeing a bit of an evolution of this offense with this two-headed monster that they have at running back, the ability to use the power scheme to beat you up front, and then they have the ability to break it outside and take long runs to the house. It's been a while since you've had guys who can hit like that, right? And guys who can hit that way, where they can both do it in a power formation, and they can do it by getting out wide. Last year, you ended up having dual threats at running back, one that was a little bit of a speedster and could get the edge and then take it to the house. But you didn't have that combo where you had guys who could run between the tackles and guys who can get outside of the tackle and make you pay. They've got that now. Then you add in a quarterback who can pass the ball and throw the ball well. I don't think they've done enough with opening that scheme up, but again, I don't think they also have the wide receivers right now. So I think that's a bit of the tripping point for this Michigan offense. But he can do things with his legs. And when the pocket breaks down and collapses, he can sit there and he can extend the play. He can pick up yards, and he's able to add another element to that backfield, which I think is awesome. So when I look at everything, I'm like, hey, I was out with a buddy of mine. We were watching the game, and this is actually his thought. He's like, you think they only have one loss going to Ohio State? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, we got to take a look at the schedule. So we started to play the schedule game, and I think this sets up really, really well for Michigan to have one loss come November 29th when Michigan's got to play number 1 Ohio State. They've got Wisconsin off a bye. Then they're going to travel to USC, and that could be a challenge, but I think that defense can wrangle that USC offense. Then they've got Washington at home. They then have to go to Michigan State, and this is where things can get a little bit murky, and I want to talk to you about this. But they then have to go to Michigan State. They then take on Purdue, which is whatever. Northwestern is whatever. Maryland, they've got to go to Maryland, which is okay, but I always feel like Michigan has more talent than Maryland. And then that leads you right back to the Ohio State game late November, and they're at home. So I think the way the schedule breaks down, it's incredibly easy for Michigan, and I feel like they can continue to get better. They will be in a spot to be with one loss taking on Ohio State. Now, like I said, the Michigan State game is the game that concerns me. You have to travel to Michigan State. You know as well as I know, this is a rivalry that runs deep, and Michigan State could be the team that trips up Michigan. Do you see Michigan State being that tripwire for Michigan being only a one-loss team taking on Ohio State in November?
Yeah, because here's the problem. Every single game, Michigan State suffers an injury that is just debilitating. It's just really tough. I don't know offensively if the Spartans can, execute at the level when you realize Michigan just is rolling with what they do. Michigan State, it really, in the end, Sharon Moore is just running an extension of what Jim Harbaugh ran. It's like year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And when you're that consistent and you have the players brought in, it just feels like the talent level disparity is too great. And I just see it more on defense, too. I don't know if Michigan State can stop Michigan. And so it's going to be a good game. And I think it could get up there in the high 20s, early 30s. But I just think that very similarly to what we saw, and it was a good game you covered, but what you saw against USC, I think, is exactly maybe how the Spartans could lose to Michigan, maybe by a touchdown or to 10 points, where you're in it. You're only down by 7, but you just need to make 1 or 2 plays. If Nick Marsh is not 100%, if your run game doesn't get going, your offensive line doesn't play very well, I feel like it's a good Michigan State team, but again, 1 year away, and they'll just fall short. But maybe the crowd, maybe a momentum-changing play, maybe you hang around a little bit, down 7-10, and then you make a couple nice runs in the fourth quarter. That's how it's got to be. And for Michigan, maybe similarly to what the Lions did in Baltimore, you need a 19-play, 12-minute drive to just keep Bryce Underwood's ass sitting on the bench so that you can maybe play a game that has fewer possessions. But I'm not confident at all. I just think that Michigan State is a handful, is basically a draft class away from, you could say, okay, realistically, outside of sounding like a homer, that they could come in and beat. They're just better. Michigan is just rolling along with what they've got going on. It's Michigan. Michigan State is still in a rebuild year 2. So that's tough to, preview that the Spartans could hang with Michigan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, I think the most important thing for Michigan State is Jonathan Smith. How serious does he take this rivalry? I think last year was kind of his induction into it, and I don't really think he knew what to do. I think he thought it was very much Oregon State, Oregon, which, not taking anything away from that rivalry, it is what it is. but it's not to the level that Michigan State is. Like this is like a blood feud, you know? Like you don't talk to certain family members because of this feud sometimes. So this is a huge deal, and I don't think he last year was prepared for it. I think if he comes in this year with a little bit of a different mindset and really gets these guys fired up and puts a chip on these guys' shoulders, I think that can really dial them in. And I think, yeah, they could be the thing that trips up Michigan from being 10-1 headed to Ohio State, or Ohio State heading to Michigan. So I think Michigan State is the team right now that, not trying to look too far ahead, but looking at that schedule could become a huge problem. You know as well as I know, the rivalry takes on its own little narrative, and that game, no matter what the talent levels are and no matter what the talent disparity is, each team really gets up for this game. And all of a sudden, you've got 2-star guys playing 5-star caliber football in this game because of how important it is. And I think the onus has to fall on Jonathan Smith. I think if he can get this right and get these guys dialed in, it's going to be a very, very tough game for Michigan, because I do think Michigan is the more talented team out of the two. I think Michigan should be able to walk into Michigan State and punch the Spartans in the mouth and take home the victory. But it's a rivalry game, and it's nasty. And if you can get Michigan State players up and you can get them on that level, and look, I think coming off of this USC loss, as long as the wheels don't fall off and he can keep the train rolling, I think they're going to be in a good spot. Again, I think Aiden Childs is a really good quarterback. I think he's really become a bit of a man this season. And I like what I'm seeing from that offense. That defense that Michigan State has, I think, is utter garbage. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that defense. And I think that's something that Michigan can exploit. I think the running back duo that Michigan has, and I think the quarterback that Michigan has, can really take advantage of that. Offensively, though, I think Michigan State is a good team. I don't know if they can carry that team. So it's going to be, the onus is on Jonathan Smith. He's got to get that defense ready for this Michigan team. It's going to be interesting when we get to this point in the season where these two teams are facing off. But as of right now, looking forward, shaking my crystal ball up, it says you got to get through this game. And that's that Michigan State game. And Michigan can have a really interesting season welcoming in Ohio State, possibly being 10-1. And again, I think Michigan will be 10-1 when they take on Ohio State. I'm going to say it right now. But I think the game that can trip them up will be the Michigan State game. So if they get by that, 10-1 Michigan welcoming in Ohio State late November. And I think that'll be for all of the marbles for the Big Ten. So it'll be real interesting to see what happens with Michigan and Michigan State. Speaking of tripping on your own dinghy, the Tigers, they're going to blow this and they're going to miss the playoffs, aren't they?
Oh, cuz this is bad. Cuz
you got Derek Scoble blowing dudes' faces up and then having a meltdown on the mound, trying to sit there and hike a ball through his legs the other night. Dude, this set up so well for Cleveland. Like literally, they came into your house, swept you. Now you got to go to their house, and they're probably going to sweep you there. I don't know what's going on. This is bonkers.
Team. The Guardians are the team that just own you. It's embarrassing. Cause 15-game lead. But listen, I can't even be mad.
Dude, there was a point where they had an 18-game lead.
Yeah, cause you can't be
right
mad.
Right after the I think it was maybe right after the trade deadline. I think they had an 18-game lead.
Absolutely. It's just one of those things. I'm glad Scott Harris can wear this on the resume to show you that you can't go out there and act like the smartest guy in the move. What was the purpose of the trade deadline? You have your content creators. I mean, I don't know if you follow Chris Castellani and his videos. He's always emotional. He's a great fan. He's done a lot of things in his career already. And he was so sullen that he did 180 seconds, 3 minutes, and he basically was like, the Tigers lost. They played bad. They defeated them. I was like, man, I should go on there and fire it up. I'm not unemotional about it, but I'm happy. Scott Harris should wear this on his resume, and the whole organization should get slapped in the face for trying to insult people by going, we're going to add a 40-year-old pitcher. We're going to add journeyman. Finnegan was the only addition you needed to make. It is so embarrassing, cause that you added talent and then you had to DFA him.
Yes.
That is embarrassing.
Dude, you just go back. You go back to the start of the season. Adding a guy like Alex Cobb, who was on his couch about to retire, and you paid him $15 million. And the guy was like, well, I can't turn down that check. And you never got anything out of him. You took $15 million and set $15 million on fire, essentially. And then you go out at the trade deadline and you make a play for mediocre at best bullpen arms. At best. And 3 out of the 4 guys definitely do not pan out. And then you got to start DFAing guys. Like, yeah, you are absolutely horrible. We're just gonna send you on your way. Thanks. You're right. Finnegan was the only thing that was worth a damn. And it's just been an utter mess. We've talked about needing a bat. At this moment in time, I feel like whenever Tarek Skubal takes the mound, he's like, unless I throw shutout baseball and these guys give me a lead in the 7th, we're losing this game. And I think he's pressing. I think you've seen it the other night in Cleveland. He's pressing because he's got no support from the bats. And we talked about them needing a possible bat at the trade deadline, and they did nothing. They went out and made 0 moves for anything. And you're right. Scott Harris needs to own this. Like, this isn't on AJ Hinch. This is on Scott Harris, and it's on these players. These players obviously aren't mentally capable enough of handling this pressure. You can see this. It has started to slip away. Almost 2 months ago, we were doing this weekly check-in on our Tigers, and this is now where we're at, where you're going to lose this, you're going to blow this, and you're not going to make the playoffs. You had the number 1 seed at one point, and it was miles ahead of everybody else. And now we're here where we're talking about this team not even making the playoffs. This is on Scott Harris for thinking he is the smartest guy in the room. This is on the players for not being able to execute. This has been an absolute abysmal season. They played a solid full year, and it happened to be at the All-Star break of last year to basically the All-Star break of this year. They played really, really good baseball. And then on the ends of that has just been them floundering around, playing some sub 500 ball and just blowing everything and making their lives incredibly, incredibly difficult. And look, If I'm Tarek Skubal, why do I want to come back to this? Why do I want to come back and play for a general manager, a president of baseball operations who thinks he's the smartest guy in the room and won't give my team the pieces that it needs because he believes in all of these young guys? You know, the young guys who haven't necessarily encountered pressure like this, the young guys who can't swing their way out of a wet paper bag, the young guys who are basically learning and growing as this season is unfolding, when we should be talking about holding down the number 1 or the number 2 seed in the playoffs and making some noise going into October. Instead, we're drowning and we're floundering. And look, I know there's been a lot of pushback on him wanting $400 million, right? Whether that comes over the course of 10 years or whether it comes over the course of 8 years, whatever it is. He wants a Brinks truck backed up. But if I'm him, why do I want to play here? I can go play for the Dodgers. I can go play for the Red Sox. I can go play for the Yankees. I can go play for insert name, Mariners. Doesn't matter. I can go play for any of those guys, Blue Jays. And they are a much better constructed ball club because they've got enough pieces on both sides that can help get the job done and get you into the playoffs. So if I'm Tarek Skubal, why would I want to come back to this mess? And again, this is on Scott Harris. And if we do our weekly check-in, right, where it's no concern, team's going to win their division, that's off the table. Comfortable with things. I don't think anybody's comfortable with anything. I think at this point, it's like you got a rash on your crotch and it's 98 degrees outside and humid as hell and everything burns and it feels like you got a prickly pear in your nutsack. and I am no longer bipolar. No longer. I was bipolar for the longest time, right? I thought this team could figure it out. It felt like they would play these series where they would win one, lose one, and you're kind of up and down in the middle of the week. At this moment in time, I am full on Panic at the Disco. The collapse is inevitable. They're going to be the Twins of last year, and Cleveland is going to be you this year. This is going to be an utter disaster. You are missing the playoffs. And I think once that happens, I think then I just transition into utter rage and anger, and I just want to burn it all down.
Yeah.
And you already know how I feel about Scott Harris. I think Scott Harris is an asshat. I don't like him. I hate Chris Ilitch. Really and truly, the only thing redeemable about the Detroit Tigers is AJ Hinch. That's the only thing I really like about the Tigers. I can't stand. Look, same thing with the Red Wings. I love Steve Yzerman. I have a monument built to Steve Yzerman in what was once my office, now is going to be the playroom for my kids. I loved him. He was the reason I wore number 19 playing hockey for years. I had a hockey stick and I wrote WWYD. What would Yzerman do? Is what I wrote on my hockey stick, right? So like whenever I was having a bad moment and I was getting ready to freak out and rip somebody's head off, I would just kind of look at my stick and just be like, calm down. This is not how you lead other guys, right? I can't stand Steve Yzerman. Like, he was the one athlete I wanted to meet. And if I ever seen him, I'd probably punch him in the face because I can't stand his smarm. I can't stand how he also thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. To me, it really feels like there's Chris Ilitch, who's an asshole, and then you've got Scott Harris and you've got Steve Yzerman, and they're the exact same person. They think they're smarter than everybody else in the room. They're very dismissive. They're very condescending when they talk to you. They think they know everything, and their plan is the best. Cool, Steve. It's going to be 10 years before we ever see the playoffs. And Scott Harris, you had the number one baseball team at the All-Star break. And somehow, with 5 All-Stars, whether they deserve to be in there or not, with 5 All-Stars, you have crumbled down the stretch and you are going to miss the playoffs. You, sir, are an asshole. Steve Yzerman, you, sir, are an asshole. And at the top of it all is Chris Ilitch, the biggest blown out, prolapsed asshole you will ever meet in your entire life. I am tired of the Tigers, and the Red Wings season's just starting, and I'm already tired of the Red Wings.
Right?
Thanks for my therapy session.
Ilitch equals subpar, and you know it's bad when all people are making jokes about.
Ram me another $8 cardboard-ass pizza from your Little Caesars shit shop.
Yeah, people are joking around with what he was sitting next to a lady, and people are just wondering what the hell he was saying to her and what she was saying to him. And it's unfortunate. The Tigers didn't make the investment this year. But, maybe the only silver lining is that Scott Harris told everybody we're not good enough. And we just wanted to just get to the postseason and see what happens. That's what it is. And you can't say it publicly, but the moves are indicative of, and the team knows it. The team knows it's not talented enough. They've collapsed.
Yeah, how would you feel playing for this team? When
devoid of leadership,
where you're at standings wise, and you know what you're doing is magical.
Yep.
And then you've got your general manager being like, "Yeah, you guys aren't good enough." It's like being the not favorite kid of like your mom or your dad, right? You're just like, well, why the hell do I even try? Like, screw your birthday, I ain't getting you shit.
Exactly. And the message was sent. And they've collapsed. They're not swinging properly in the strike zone. They're too undisciplined right now. The pitching staff is atrocious. And you built on, and in the end, it's not an excuse, but you don't have the pitching staff that was what made you successful. You lost a couple pitchers to injury. So you just have Skubal and a bunch of good luck. And that's what happens. This is the art. This is the anatomy of a collapse. And I'm glad it happened. I'm glad that Scott Harris and the organization will own this. And they'll move forward, and hopefully, when the time comes, I want them to be put out of their misery. Just lose out the rest of the way. Don't fight anymore. Let's just end this. It's a charade. Once the deadline happened, you declared you were not serious as World Series contender. It was viewed as a joke. It was viewed as silly. It was viewed as not helping your team. It's a very rare instance, and we'll own this one, for 2025 Detroit Tigers. It's a very rare instance when a team goes into a deadline, has a strategy, and makes the team worse. Thank you. You own it. 2025 Detroit Tigers trade deadline disaster. You made your moves and you made the team worse. What not to do when you make deadline moves is to make your club worse. Own it. 2025 trade deadline disastrous losers. You know who are not losers? The Detroit Lions, baby. They stamped their account for 2025 with the win against the Ravens. Now, what does that mean? They went into Baltimore against a team. Now, you have to always acknowledge that they did have a couple of injuries. Key ones, Kyle Van Noy and Matt Abukwe, most notably. But hey, that's their problem, not ours. And Jared Goff was kept clean. the offensive line gelled and they played well. And guess what? You ran your offense. You used some trick plays. You were able to use some inside zone run concepts to get some chunk yardage. You had explosive plays. You were, it was the blueprint. Fourth down, gutsy calls, execution. You even had some guts to try a 67-yarder, and it didn't work out. Because look at the way the game shook out. It's 14-14 at halftime, and then you come out, you give up a touchdown. The tight ends got into it for the Ravens, and I was like, oh, that's one of the big problems. And then the offensive explosion hit, and the Lions were able to capitalize on some momentum and some mistakes by the Ravens that really helped the Detroit Lions. And most notably, everybody, along with Detroit Sports Podcast, we're going to send a collective thank you card to Derrick Henry for being Butterfingers and for not being the Derrick Henry that is the machine. He ended up looking like DeAndre Swift out there, just dropping the football, just not being able to do his thing. And when he fell down on the bench there, it was symbolic of
that. Was so funny.
That's what the Lions can do to you when they get after it. And hey, you gotta credit Al-Quadin Muhammad. He was like, hey, I was on the couch and they gave me a chance. I better take advantage. 2.5 sacks against Lamar, 7 total. That was shocking.
Look, let's start right there. I need to put some respect on Al-Quadin Muhammad's name. Right? I need to do that. This was a guy that I just kind of, I wouldn't say threw away, but I totally discarded him, right? I just like, you sit over there, whatever, just be a guy. That guy is rising, right? He looks, when Brad Holmes like we're confident with the guys that we have, and then Dan Campbell comes out and was like, we're good. They obviously seen this. They knew what they had. He played an incredible game. He played absolutely incredible. Do I think he's the guy that I want opposite of Aiden Hutchinson on every snap? No. I want somebody else to be able to help Aiden Hutchinson perform better, because if we're gonna be honest, I don't feel like Aiden Hutchinson has really given you anything this season. He tends to bubble up in the fourth quarter, kind of like garbage time. The game's not necessarily sealed, but you're salting it away, and all of a sudden he'll pop a sack. So like, I don't feel like Aiden Hutchinson's play has been worth the $50 million that he's going to command. I think Al-Quadin Muhammad, and like I said, I do need to put some respect on his name. How do I pronounce his first name? How do I pronounce that first name for Mr. Muhammad, John?
Al-Quadin.
Yes. Al-Quadin. Okay. So Al-Quadin Muhammad played incredibly well. Now what I need to see is him do it again. I need him to do it back-to-back weeks. And yes, he's going up against a beleaguered, beat-up Browns offense that is absolute trash. But I need him to go out there and I need him to do something similar to what he did this week against a very good Ravens team. But he made me eat my words. He put it in my face, and I have to put some respect on this man's name. Al-Quadin Muhammad. I will no longer be calling you Al-Quadin Muhammad unless you give me a very good reason. You are now Al-Quadin Muhammad going forward, or you're just Mr. Muhammad Hashbadillah. Salaikum salam. So he played incredibly well. He played awesome. He played it was absolutely nuts to watch this guy perform at the way he performed. And this was a dude you even told me about. You're like, look, just pay attention to him. Yeah. He's good. He's going to be a good player. So
what's good is
kudos to you, man.
Yeah, because what's good about it is if you know the Lions and the most prototypical type of player, all praise Muhammad is very, very interesting for the Detroit Lions, because they're a very prayerful organization, very religious based, and Al-Quadin Muhammad is somebody that they're going to potentially need, because guess what, cuz? You were right. Ding, ding, bada bing. Marcus Davenport.
News broke. I was dying.
Marcus Davenport. That's the first person I thought of was you. I was like,
why would you put faith in this man?
2 games on IR.
Made out of peanut brittle.
Oh, bro. It's bad, bro. It's bad. You got people analyzing his, sling, and they're like, he's sitting on the couch. You can't get up. And I was like, already on IR, bro. It's bad. It's risky. It was risky. So you basically only get now 2 games. So 3 games, he's missed 1. He's going to miss the next 4. So
At least.
So
I'm assuming this is somewhere between a 6 and 8 week injury, and they just haven't came out and said it yet.
So it's 9. Potentially, you get 10 games. Listen. Get it out of the way now. This is maybe his luck. It wasn't season ending, but it's just okay. So listen. In a month, we're gonna put it to rest right now. But in a month, we got to start it over again. How many snaps does?
Yep.
We'll start it over again. It just sucks.
I think that's the way to phrase it too. How many snaps do you get out of him?
60,
it's not games. It's how many snaps do you get out
64, of him? 42. Yeah, we'll put a positive spin on it. Can we get 105? Let's go. Can we get into the hundreds through triple-digit snaps? Can we get triple-digit snaps out of Marcus Davenport? Let's go.
But honestly, I think they need to do a biopsy on his bones and legitimately figure out if they are made out of peanut brittle, because he just snaps in half.
It's
like
tough,
a
man.
chunk of peanutty, buttery peanut brittle, bro.
It may not be man. I might not put him on the edge anymore. Put him switch it up. Like he might. You know what? You just got to figure it out.
Is there any way you can play in a body cast if we just kind of keep the cast off the joint so you can bend?
That's a tough
position. Is there any way we can play you in that? He's out there in like a full armor suit. He looks like a medieval knight.
Yeah, cast on his arm, shoulder. He's like, dude, he looks like the Legion of Doom with those shoulder pads. What has he got? Like, you know what I mean? Like Christian Okoye, remember him? You know the way big. He was like, well, look at those pads. Look at those pads. You know, Marcus Davenport and the Christian Okoye pads.
Had those shoulder pads that basically went up to the back of the crown of the helmet.
Yeah, exactly. So just wear a brace, like you see him come out and he's like taking off the jersey, the uniform, the pads, then the Under Armour support, whatever it takes. But you know what? Because in all seriousness, outside of the injury, it's probably fair just to look at it from the football side. You probably didn't get anything out of him when he was there. So he's a big body. So you maybe improved your defense by having him not in the lineup. And it goes to show you that sometimes you have a player that's just too far gone and is in his head about not getting injured, and it's just too difficult. You got to execute. Muhammad got 2.5 sacks, and he made an impact. And he gives all-out effort on every single play. So if you can find that across the league, whether it's from this new guy that you brought in for a workout, Quentin Jefferson, or somebody else, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But you always got to look to upgrade. And sometimes it just may be addition by subtraction when you have – it's no offense to Davenport. Sometimes there's a guy hungrier that now knows this is his last shot. You know, he's 30 years old. He might end up making $5 million next year. That might be a career high. If he's always on a 1-year deal, prove it. And if he ends up proving it, maybe you make life-changing money for him here or somewhere else. So whatever it may be, that defensive performance was perfect in regards to not letting Lamar wreck the game. He had impact, but not letting it to the point where your offense couldn't keep up. So it was a great game. What impressed you the most about it? When you look at
I think Kelvin Shepherd deserves a ton of credit, right? I think the defensive scheme that he ran was impeccable because you could see Lamar Jackson was incredibly frustrated. Derrick Henry so frustrated he fell off his bench. It was a fantastic job by this defense to just get underneath the skin of the Ravens. So defensively, what they did and the way that they schemed it and the way that they ran it. If you had any questions about Kelvin Shepherd, I think you got some answers from this game. He can game plan and he can do some things. And he did a fantastic job, specifically in that second half, really ruffling the feathers of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And then offensively, what you had from this team, being able to put together drives of 80 plus yards and just chewing up clock, understanding this is something we talked about last week. They've got to be able to run the ball. They've got to be able to control the clock. They've got to be able to eat the clock to not give Baltimore the ball back. And that is exactly what they did. Like that run game was absolutely incredible. The job that David Montgomery did was outstanding. Jahmyr Gibbs did a fantastic job. Job at best. What the hell? Jahmyr Gibbs did a fantastic job as well. And then you just kind of sprinkled in a couple of timely passes here and there. And the offense, the offensive line played so good. I think Jared Goff, I think he got hit once. I'd have to go back and look at the box score, but they kept him clean. And that was the one thing that we've said. If you can keep them clean, you're going to win games. And that is exactly what they did. I think the big thing to take away from this game, they went on the road. They went into a very hostile area on a primetime game, right? Monday night games are huge, and they gave you an outstanding performance. Here's the thing. I don't think they played their best game. I think the best is still yet to come with this team. You go back, you watch this game, you go to the first quarter, or you go to the first half, I'm sorry, and right before halftime, they get the ball back with, I think it was like a minute 40, and they essentially went 3 and out and gave the ball right back to Baltimore, and Baltimore comes down and scores with like 51 seconds left. They had the ball back. So you clean that up, right? You're able to convert that into points. Next thing you know, you're going into halftime at worst 17-7. And then you come out in the second half. And again, you should have had at least 2 more turnovers, 2 more interceptions. There were times where you probably really should have sacked Lamar, but he is incredibly elusive. And I think offensively, they left at least 2 touchdowns on the field where they should have came away with points. So what I'm telling you is everything that we've seen that was really, really good in that Chicago game, I felt like they left points on the board there. You come to this game, and I feel like they left points on the board here. And I feel like defensively, I don't think you're getting enough out of Aiden still. I think he's playing okay. To be honest with you, I think it's been pretty mediocre. I don't think he's done anything that has been in the heat of the game, in the prime spots of the game. I think a lot of what he's getting is during that fourth quarter where you got guys who are tired. You got guys who are either on the verge of checking out of this game, or you've got guys where the game is just trying to get salted away and they're trying to make a big play and he's taking advantage there. I don't think he's giving you nearly enough. We've talked about Muhammad's play, which has been absolutely fantastic. I think the linebacker play has been very, very good. You look at the secondary, and again, this is another game where Arnold comes up short. And I'm watching the game unfold, and I just end up kind of losing it while I'm watching the game with a buddy of mine, and I just start cursing about Arnold. Like, he's incredibly frustrating to me. At this point, we're through 3 games of his second season, and I don't know what he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be a guy who can play in this league. Right now, he looks like he's a rotational cornerback, and they are forcing him to play primetime minutes, and they're forcing him to be a primetime starter, and I'm just not seeing it.
Okay.
He has been incredibly frustrating.
Is 1 year...
Walk me off the ledge.
Yeah.
Walk me off the ledge here.
Well, I'm curious because I'm trying to keep a more measured approach, being that you're around him, you're seeing that he's a young player, he's a first-round pick. Darius Slay, other guys took time, but, Matt Shepard grilled me during an interview, and he said, look, if your specialty in college was man-to-man coverage and you're put in a heavy amount of man-to-man and you're not getting after it, you're not doing your job. And Dan Campbell said today, Wednesday, on the radio, they're going to switch it up. They're going to play Amik Robertson a little bit more. So they say, we're going to throw you on an island and feed you to the wolves. Good luck. And Dan Campbell is unsympathetic. He's like, good luck and get better. But they believe he's going to get better, but I'm not so certain anymore, because I don't believe that the position is really masterful in any capacity, even if you have an elite defensive back. It is so tough on an island. Do you think they need to switch it up in regards to the scheme? Like, look, I know that, it's one of those scenarios where you want to wait for him and they're going to give him time to develop. But, this is a critical year. I just don't feel like there's no time in the NFL to develop a defensive back, especially when you take him in the first round. It kind of indicates you got to hit the ground running and make some plays, like you saw from Sauce Gardner, you saw from others, Derek Stingley, you start to see, but they get cooked too. So it's just a nasty position to try and play week in, week out. Just look at the photo from the Lions on SI. Look at the size disparity from Rashad Bateman to Terrion Arnold. Like, I found that photo funny because it looks like he's humping him. So it's... but I tried to crop it down so it didn't look as bad. I'll maybe send you the full one. But let's just look at it. It's not cool because of the fact that wide receivers have the advantage, and he's got to step it up. You're paid, like, I don't want to undervalue him. You're paid to be a top line, but he's not right now. The best thing to say is he's not shut down. There's no Terrion Arnold Island. And also too, though, he is hurt. Like, you have to acknowledge he's dealing with something. He's not going to say it, but I feel like when you're hurt, you got to sacrifice certain skills, and you're always kind of in a spot where you got to be a little bit gingerly.
Okay, so well, here's the deal. If he's hurt, that
You gotta
coaching
come out,
staff
yeah.
needs to help him out.
Yeah.
You gotta have move a safety over to help bracket
yes.
coverage with him, because what we're getting is just a lot more of the same. It's untimely penalties that are costing field position. It's getting burned regularly. You basically see the back of this guy's jersey, and you see a wide receiver with a hand up catching a football. He looks like he's lost when he's on the field at times. And again, he was drafted in the first round. This is a guy who I know they're dumping a lot on. I get that he's young. If you're hurt, man, you are putting your team at a disadvantage. And those coaches, they have to know that he's hurt. If he is, they need to do something to help him then, because what's going on right now, it's not good. In all honesty, I think Amik Robinson is a fantastic player. Play him and rotate Arnold in. Give him a little bit of a break. Let him maybe get his mind right. Maybe let things kind of catch up. Maybe things are moving just a little bit too fast for him. I don't know. I think you've got 2 weeks here, right, where you're playing the Browns and then you're playing the Bengals. Neither one of these teams offensively are very good right now. This is get right week for Terrion Arnold. You need to see an elevated performance from him. And if the coaching staff can take a little bit off his plate, do it. Whatever you have to do. This is a week for you to try to elevate your game and get a little bit more comfortable and just get things corrected, because what we've seen through 3 weeks has not been very good and has been incredibly frustrating. And this is a guy that you're counting on. He's a dude that you've kind of built parts of this defense around. And when you've got guys like Muhammad coming in and giving you primetime snaps and making a monster difference, and he's a dude who you went and you picked up out of the Blockbuster, bushel bin, where you picked him up a DVD for $6. And Arnold is a guy that was basically supposed to be like Ruth Chris Filet Mignon, and honestly, it feels like it's reversed. It really feels like it's been flip-flopped. Feels like Arnold was the dude out of the Blockbuster bushel bin, and Muhammad's the prime cut of steak. Yeah. So that's got to get figured out, man. It's got to get figured out. But I think the one thing you can take away, his defense looks like it's rolling. Offense obviously looks like it's rolling. The schedule, I feel like, kind of lightens up a little bit. I feel like we talked about the Browns, and I think they've got a very good defense. We're going to talk about them here in a little bit. But their offense is not great. The Bengals, Joe Burrow basically being dead. You've seen what Browning gave you. He turned the ball over 3 times this past week. You kind of look at the schedule, you play that look-ahead game, right? And I feel like I've been doing this a lot with both Michigan and the Lions here. But I don't see a reason why this team can't be 6-1 after week 7. Nice. I think the big game that you've got is you're going to be taking on Tampa Bay, and I believe that's going to be a Monday night game down in Tampa Bay. So that's going to be, or no, I think it's a Monday night game here. So that'll be a bit of a challenge, and Tampa Bay always seems to give you fits. But as much as I like Baker and as much as I like Tampa Bay, I feel like with the way you're playing right now, you should win that game and you should go into your bye week at 6-1. Look, the Chiefs are a complete mess. Going to Kansas City and playing at Arrowhead does not scare me. The Browns, like I said, they've got an elite defense, but the offense is going to put them in bad spots. The Bengals defense is whatever the Bengals defense is. The offense without Joe Burrow does not look like it can get out of its own way. The Chiefs are that old Patriots dynasty that has aged out, and they've not done enough to complement any of those pieces there. You got Travis Kelce, who's more worried about his engagement to Taylor Swift, and you've got Patrick Mahomes, who it seems like he's lost a step. The offense just does not look explosive. And I don't know if it's Mahomes. I don't know if it's the pieces around him. Pacheco looks like a shell of what Pacheco was before his injury last year. Without Xavier Worthy, you really don't have that downfield threat. So offensively, they do not scare me. Defensively, they're okay, but they can be had. You can run on them, you can pass on them. So it just leads me to Tampa Bay and and the Baker Buccaneers. And I think that's going to be a challenge, but you're at home. I feel like you should win that game. And I feel like you've got some tune-up games here to get yourself ready for that. Any reason you see that this team should not be 6-1 headed into their bye week?
Yeah, just the very nature of the definition. This week could be a trap game. And what that means
John's
is
calling trap game with the Browns.
because look at the momentum that they got probably from beating the Packers. It's a week-to-week league. It's a home game. So the Browns were able to, with the visiting Packers, win a game that nobody expected them to. And a team changes. Like the Packers are not the Packers anymore because they lost Spartan dog Jaden Reed. That changes your dynamic. That changes your dynamic when you have a tight end that was really good. He's also battling stuff. So that's a different team now. So the Browns get some confidence, and you're on a shorter week. That's one less day to recover. But I do think the Browns will definitely get the Lions' attention. Myles Garrett, I don't think, is going to allow Jared Goff to be clean as much as the struggles that the Ravens had with their pass rush. So it could be a little different. And Dan Campbell acknowledged that defense might be the best one they faced so far. So this one could be a grind. But here's the good thing is that I just don't think that the Browns offensively have enough to keep up with the Lions if they get it rolling at home. If this game was the same game but the Lions going to Cleveland, I would foreshadow a loss because of the trap game and the whole momentum that they built. But no, at Ford Field, you just got way too much momentum with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, who had a great performance. So it'll be a knockout, drag-out, I believe, four-quarter kind of game. And the Lions, I think, are going to just keep doing the same thing. Guess what? If you run the John Morton, Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell offense, it looks pretty good. And I'm very happy to see it. I do think that, you got to be careful. Did you see that play with 99 bearing down on Jared Goff and just smacked him right in the face? It was unbelievable. There's one play, if you go back and watch it, where the Lions had a busted offensive line blocking coverage, and they let 99 in and just free shot on Jared Goff. That was not good. But I do think that the blocking for and against the Browns is going to be definitely up there again, and you got to protect Jared Goff. That's the key. It's really simple. I mean, this is not rocket science. This is not rocket science in any way, shape, or form. You block for Jared Goff, you got a chance to win a lot of games, including in the playoffs. You have a bad game like you did against the Commanders, you could lose to anybody. You could lose in the first round. You could lose in the Super Bowl. That's the key. And that's why I think that Brad Holmes should spend extra time in the lab finding another reserve offensive lineman, one or two more defensive linemen, and another wide receiver, maybe another cornerback to shore up the 4 more guys. Make this the year. This could be the year. If you get off to that start, I hope they do. Because if you get off to that start, maybe Brad will actually go and push and get a plethora, more than just one guy at the deadline. Maybe he'll make the push to get 3, 4 impactful guys and say, all right, let's go. We got a couple years. We're going to restructure Goff next year. We got a lot of things to take a look at, and it's looking like a good year, cuz it's looking very good. If you can get out to 3-1, then you go out to Cincy. Look, it's not a guarantee. It's on the road. It's a tough game. Maybe that's when Browning, or if they go out and get another cornerback, maybe Jameis Winston, that game looks a little different. Because, look, the momentum shifts when you lose your starting quarterback, no matter what. So that's the first game, but everyone's going to wake up and realize, okay, we still have a football team. We got to go play. We can't leave Browning out to dry, and he has capabilities. But that first time you're the man, it's sometimes difficult to handle. Now, I do want to give you my review real fast of what happened. So I felt like the universe was sending me a very strong message. So right before I board, I met Aiden Hutchinson's dad formally. I walked up to him. I said, if you don't mind me asking, Dr. Hutch? He's like, yeah. And so I was like, oh, man, nice to see you. He was wearing Hutchinson's swag. So briefly had a conversation with him. He joked about my Spartan lanyard. He said, that's the best the company could give you? And I didn't catch it at first. I'm like, I caught it. I was like, very good. And it helped calm me down to get on the flight. But then he boards earlier, and it's me, a Lions fan, and an older lady. And she's like, oh, you guys are going to Baltimore? He's like, yeah, I think she was going too. She's like, she looks deadpan, looks at us and goes, just be careful in that area. You could get shot. And I said, what? And she said, yeah, Baltimore's changed, not like the same. You could just be, it's just Wild West there. It's totally different. And I was like, oh my God. And so now I'm panicked. I'm like, okay, let's survive the flight. What's gonna happen? All I'm picturing is The Wire. I'm picturing like just police sirens going on all over the place. Like, what the hell's gonna happen? Now, typically the blessing is my wife always puts me in the nice area. I'm like, no matter what. She's like, well, you're so annoying. I only asked 2 questions. How far from the stadium? How far from the airport? Because, dog, I get lost. But let me tell you, Baltimore was ran perfectly. Signs everywhere. Downtown area was nice. Yeah, there's some rugged parts. It's like Detroit. There's parts where you're like, uh-oh, I think I'm on the wrong side of the tracks. So I made the decision. I didn't do it beforehand. When I got to the airport, Uber made it great. You could rent a car in 3 minutes. I was like, holy cow. Push a button, I had a car within 5 minutes. Because when things are run right, it just pisses you off more when things are not run right. Dude, they have 50 different companies all in a loop. You could find a rental car, and it's in its own little section. It has its own garage. Avis, Hertz, Enterprise, Six. It was amazing. You drop the car in, you drop the car out. It was run so perfectly. The Baltimore Stadium has a big, huge sign that says media. What do you know? As opposed to other stadiums where you got to guess. It was perfect. The Baltimore Stadium had a freight elevator, holds 60 people. You walk in it, everybody goes down together. You're one unified media. The food was great. Now, there was an issue in that they cramped us like with it. There was no room for personal space. So if I was going to blow a fart, someone was going to hear it. So I was like, what the hell? So the Lions have a big, spacious press box, but it's the worst view in the league. It literally, you're 7 rows up. The
Dude,
view.
It is not good.
No, you gotta be lower level. You gotta be like suite level. Come on. You give us the worst view. You want us to be accurate?
When I would cover games there, I found myself watching television more than the actual on-field product because it was just it was just difficult to see, especially when you're looking for intricacies.
Yeah.
It was tough to see.
And the more I go, the more I realize, okay, the Lions are okay with their accommodations, but they fall short compared to what other. And guess what the Baltimore Ravens do? They transcribe all the players. They have a staff, and it's like, here's your report, Mr. Macaroon. And once they got on the list from the media, their lady emailed me all their reports Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Miss M. Every single day. Here's our report today from the Baltimore Ravens. Here's all the quotes you would like. Would you like anything else? I was like, oh my God. The Lions, they give you the main guys and a snippet of everything, and it's like they just get it done. I was like, wow. The Ravens sent me 9 quotes full. I was like, Jesus. And their food spread was awesome with the crab cakes and onion rings and the chicken, and they serve 2 different meals. They have larger cups for their containers. I was like, gosh, I don't want to be that way. But so then also too, the reason why I rented the car was my brother-in-law's like, oh yeah, my colleague had to drive by the police station and hide because someone followed him. I was like, what? So I was like head on a swivel and driving around. But luckily I stayed in the good part. I spent an hour just driving around the city, the downtown. I didn't walk. I was like scared crapless. So I just drove around the highway, just kind of took in the scenery, took in the bay, the water, the stuff. I got a bunch of oysters. So I did the thing you're supposed to do. I stayed in the safe areas. I didn't do nothing at night. Handled business. It was a good idea to get a rental car. I will probably do that moving forward if I go. But yeah, I think I wanted to do like 6. I wanted to do personally. If Joe Burrow was there, I wanted to do Cincy. I'm not going to do that. The kids miss me. I miss them a lot. I wanted to do that. I wanted to do Philly, Washington. I might just do one Philly. And that might be it for travel. I think once a year is perfect for me. I miss the family too much, miss the flow of everything. It's not the vibe that I like to wake up at 4 a.m. for a 7 o'clock flight, work all day long, and then stay up till 1 o'clock because you're wired from the game. And then right, get up at 9, panic more until you get on a flight at noon and get back at 2 o'clock and then do more work. I was like, okay, once a year, twice a year max. But I'll be driving the rest of the way this year, unless they make the playoffs, and we'll go from there. But I did learn more about planes and their safety and how they operate and how they keep all these flights in the air safely. So it's getting better. But yeah, I was like, Jesus, the first thing I hear is, you could get shot in Baltimore. I'm like, I'm not getting shot. I'm ultra safe. I should have told her, listen, lady, I'm white. And I'm pretty straight-laced. Like, I'm not going to do anything past midnight. I'm going to get in my car, out the car, and they treat us pretty well when you're in the media. So I'm not getting shot. And but I did feel scared because the hotel that Andrea put me in, they didn't let you in. You had to, I'm like, I don't have a key. And you had to like push a button, and I'm pushing it and nobody answered anything. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I'm pushing the button. There's no alarm. I'm like, is this thing working? And then 5 minutes later, they opened it and said, sorry, we were busy. I'm like, and you read the sign and it says, for your security, the doors here are locked 24/7. Use your key to get in. So I'm like, oh my God. So luckily I avoided any issues with not knowing something and getting lost. It was a good trip. Baltimore, I recommend it with groups. I don't think for a single person or a couple. I think just do it with a group, hang out, get after it. But it's like Detroit. It's like Detroit maybe circa 10 years ago, where it has a little bit of ruggedness. There are some homeless people laid down flat on the street. But it seems like lately, at least from my seeing, I have not encountered like the schizophrenic homeless people. I've just encountered the ones that are like just passed out, face down. Like nobody's coming at me going, hey man, Osama's coming back to get you. Can you give me $5? You know what I mean? So none of that. It's just they're there and they've just been docile. So lucky they're, and everybody just kind of just work around it. That's just kind of how it is. And luckily it's a good experience. I am the good luck charm for the Detroit Lions in primetime, not Jared Goff, who's 8-2, but me. The last 3 primetime games I've been there, they've won actually. It's been pretty fun to have a festive locker room, and it was a good trip. Have you ever been to Baltimore, East Coast, Boston, New York? You ever taken the East Coast? It's a different vibe. Like it's a more like it's similar to Detroit, rugged. People are hardworking, nice downtown area, but there's some port areas that can get rugged.
Yeah, for sure. I've been to New York.
Yeah.
Not been to Boston. I really want to go to Baltimore.
Yeah.
But I haven't. I've been to parts of Pennsylvania. So a little bit in kind of that like northeastern region. But no, I've not been to Baltimore. It's on my list to go though. It's on one of the places to check off. I think it was 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I told the wife that I told her to guess where we were going, and there was like a Baltimore game on television.
Nice.
It was like a Monday night, and she was like, "We're going to Baltimore," and I was like, you got it.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to Nashville instead.
Right. And I really like Camden Yards is right next to the stadium. That's just a nice vibe where you can see the beautiful baseball stadium, and then you just walk under a little bridge, and you're right there as a football stadium. It's a nice thing. LCA, Comerica and Ford Field are very similar, but they don't make it the same way. Like there's not the same. It's a vibe, but it's not the same. Like they could do more in regards to that because it's a street and there's people. It's populated. They could, and I think they block it off. You could do more. Where Comerica meets Ford Field, they have that long stretch of road. Like they could make it an amazing party thing. It's good, but it could be better, in my humble opinion. So it was interesting. It wasn't as filled with Lions fans as I thought it would be. Baltimore definitely showed out, but I love the fact that the Lions were able to showcase. And what was great too is it's really bad if you're a sports television producer and you have 9 analysts and nobody picks the Lions. Like, bro, listen, we don't have to. We can reveal the sausage. If there's a game. I don't think unless it's like a 10-point spread that any of us would just universally predict one team. Like there is another team. It's 50-50, and the Lions are a good team. So to have ESPN run 9 predictions and nobody have the guts to put the Lions was crazy. It was crazy. Plus the fact that all you had to do was listen to DocNJock and read Lions on SI. There's reasons. There's psychological reasons. The Lions were talking about getting punked physically. They never talk like that. They never, once the Lions were talking, what did you remember about that game? We were out physical. We were punked.
Yeah. I think that was the cool thing to watch.
Yeah.
Basically, the Lions took their soul.
Yeah.
Right? Like the Lions came ready for a 15-round heavyweight fight. And by the time they got to the 10th round, the Ravens were looking to tap out.
Right.
So like when you get into the bloody of it, right? Like you're now into round 12, 13, 14. Like the Ravens got nothing left. And you're looking across the line and you could just see it in their eyes. Like if you've ever played a sport and you've seen that where just the will has left the opponent, it gets you going, man. And you just want to go harder. And you just want to keep giving it to you've got nothing left because you know that they're done. They've got nothing. And that was cool to see. That was fun to watch. And I think, again, this team feels like it's tougher. It feels like it's got this little bit of nasty to it, right? Like they've been through the wars, right? Like you've been 30 minutes away from getting to a Super Bowl. You got punked on home field after getting the number 1 seed last year. You roll into this season and expectations are high, and this team just underperforms. They come back and they take it out on the Bears. And then they knew going into this game that they had to be physical. There had to be another level to this team as far as toughness goes. And I feel like they found it. And now it's going to be capitalizing on it this week. It's going to be capitalizing on it next week. It's going to be going to the Chiefs and really, I feel like they're going to dismantle them unless something crazy happens in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be getting to that level. And then it's going to set up for a really nice matchup against the Buccaneers, who I feel like right now it's the Bucs, it's Green Bay, and these are like the 2 teams that are the class of the NFC. So you've already seen what happened when you played Green Bay earlier this year. I think there's going to be a revenge when they take them on later on. And then you've got the Bucs right now, and like I said, the Bucs are always a bit of a headache for you. So they're in this stretch right now where you're really finding out a lot about this team, and I think it sets up really, really nicely this week when you're taking on the Browns, which have a incredible defense that is going to look to get after Jared Goff and is going to look to make things really, really difficult for this explosive, high-powered Detroit Lions offense. I think defensively, like I said earlier, it's a bit of a rebound game for a guy like Terrion Arnold. This is the get right weeks.
Yes.
This week, next week, you have to get things figured out. If you're hurt, figure it out. If you're to the coaching staff, help support him if he's playing while he's hurt. You've got to get stuff figured out this week. I think you need to look at seeing Aiden Hutchinson be more impactful. These are these get right weeks, right?
Right.
So I think guys who aren't performing, who are underperforming, Arnold, Hutch, anybody else on this defense, this is where you get things corrected and you get things figured out. I think offensively, they're going to have their hands full. Myles Garrett's a bastard, bro. He's a badass. That is a war daddy, and that's a dude that we wanted. And he is the straw that stirs the drink for that Cleveland defense. On top of that, you've got Jim Schwartz, who's a fantastic defensive mind. They're going to have their hands full. I think if you have the ability to block and keep Jared Goff clean, you can pick them apart through the air. It's just being able to do that. So this is, I feel like, another all hands on deck, right? So you looked at what they did with the Ravens. The pass game was kind of the afterthought. Is we're going to run the ball, we're going to run the ball, we're going to run the ball. I think this is kind of the reverse of that. I think you're going to have running backs and tight ends staying in to help provide some coverage for Jared Goff so he can stay clean, and the guys are just going to have to get open downfield, and you're going to pick them apart through the air.
100%. Let's get that W 3-1. Then you can get off to Cincinnati. You have a real good first quarter of the season. And for the Detroit Lions, back on the track to be a Super Bowl contender. And that's all you could ask for at this point in the season. Get better, stay healthy as much as possible, and survive and advance. 2-1. Let's get to 3-1. Make sure you follow Adam on X at AdamRSTROZ. Follow us at Detroit Podcast. We'll ask the Lions anything. Straightforward. I asked Amon-Ra St. Brown right after the game, you want to run it back with the Ravens again in the Super Bowl? Check it out. See what he said. No fear, baby. That's what makes the Detroit Sports Podcast fun. Independently run, independently operated, having fun since 2013. Can't wait to fire it up next week. Recap everything. Luckily, a break from the college teams with the bye week, but no bye weeks for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Going strong daily since 2013. Uncensored, unfiltered, dedicated to Detroit sports. If the teams collapse, we'll talk about it. When teams shine, we'll talk about it. Can't wait to fire it up next week on the next episode of Doc and Jock.
You fucking podcasters. I said don't let them in here.